how much does yearning for realization or enlightenment have to do with having the realization? I think it varies from person to person, because some people, it just happens spontaneously. People who weren't looking for it. And then other people, the yearning is very much involved. And for other people, the yearning can be something that gets in the way. So it's different for different people. Now, finding a good teacher can help, because they can help point you in the right direction. They can show you where yearning is useful. They can show you where yearning is not useful. Now we can ignore the people who it happens to spontaneously, because I'm assuming if you're attending this Facebook Live event that you're not one of those people, as in like you're seeking, you're interested in this already. So then it's like, how important is seeking? Well, in a way, you can't control whether you're seeking or not, can you? In a way, being a seeker of truth, or a seeker of enlightenment, or whatever you want to call it, a seeker of God or the absolute, in a way, it's a blessing and a curse that's thrust onto us. We don't choose it, it chooses us, you could say. I think that a purity of seeking, a purity of looking, is very, very valuable. It means that you're looking for what's true. It means you're willing to throw away things that are false, that you see where there's something, when you can find no evidence for your belief, you're willing to throw that belief away. It means you're willing to be completely open-minded, and it means you're willing to be completely wrong. That's very important. You have to be willing to be wrong. You have to be willing to, if you find evidence that goes against your ideas, your beliefs, then you're willing to change your ideas and beliefs in accordance with the evidence. So it implies, if you're really interested in what's true, then that purity of intent can be like a laser beam that removes lots of obstacles, and it stops you messing around and going around the houses. And what I mean by that, it makes the path to enlightenment straight. It's like, as I said, it's like a laser. There's a diamond light that just cuts straight through. And if you're really, really interested in seeking what's true, you don't mess around. You might do a little bit, but the detours are minimized, because you have that focus and that intent, and you have that radical self-honesty, which allows you to cut through the illusion. So I'd say it has importance. The problem is you can't choose whether or not you're a seeker, right? And you can't choose how intense you seek, because it varies from time to time, depending on the conditions and depending on your life around you, and depending on what kind of person you are. And the kind of person you are, in turn, depends on your genetics, your upbringing, and all these different factors. It apparently does anyway. Are you willing to be open to what this is? Are you willing to let go of things if you can't find any evidence for it? You see, if you really want to know what's true, then it clears the way. And as it says in the Bible, the truth shall set you free. So if we're really interested, then the truth will set us free. You know, I'm open to the fact that enlightenment, realization could occur without seeking, without that intensity of seeking. What I'm trying to say is that we don't have to pretend we know it all. We can just be honest with what we do know and honest with what we don't know. And actually that is a big key. That's a big key to getting this. Otherwise you get stuck in teachings. You get stuck in teachings and you get stuck in concepts, and you start parroting the latest teacher you read or the latest satsang you went to, because you're getting stuck in the words and the concepts. Because it's not about a particular teacher. It's not about a particular teaching. It's about what's true. It's about what you can see for yourself right now, right here, right now. And it's about removing all the false beliefs and false illusions we have about this. It's about removing all of that and realizing what you don't actually know. You might think you know certain things. You might think you know that you're a thinker and you're a doer. But when you look at it, you realize, gosh, there's so much I don't know. And in that not knowing, there's an openness. And that not knowing, that openness, actually, ultimately, is freedom. That not knowing, that openness is freedom. The more we think we know, the more we get into ignorance and illusion. Which is why in Vedanta teachings, they say the knowledge you gain, self-knowledge, ultimately itself is ignorance. Knowledge is another form of ignorance. It's just a thorn to remove a thorn. It's ignorance to remove another ignorance. And then you throw them both away. Use a thorn to remove a thorn and throw them both away. You got it? So, knowledge meaning intellectual knowledge. Knowledge meaning concepts, ideas. And then there's what is, which is this non-dual reality. We can call it non-dual reality. It's just a fancy way of saying the experience of whatever we're experiencing. You can't say really what it is. You know what it is because you're experiencing it. So it's a different kind of knowledge, not knowledge, conceptual knowledge, but knowing something's here. Like you might see a tree in front of you. There's no conceptual knowledge there unless you're having to express it in words and use concepts like a tree. But even before the concept of a tree, there's a sense that there's something there in front of you that we call a tree. And that's known. And so this experience is known in the same way, not conceptually, but just perceptively. There's the perception of whatever's happening. And again, if we could use that word perception without the ordinary connotations of the word perception, because the word perception implies a human perceiver, a body-mind perceiving. And we don't even know that if a body-mind's perceiving any of this. The body-mind appears within the perception, isn't it? Most of us would have heard this teaching before. The body-mind appears within the perception. We think we're perceiving through the body-mind, but actually all we know of the body-mind is through perception, isn't it? So is it that there is a body-mind and that's actually perceiving something? Well, we don't know that. There's not enough evidence to say, yes, we are bodies and minds and we're perceiving things through the 5 senses. We don't know that for sure. It might appear that way, but we don't know for sure. But similarly, we can't say, oh, therefore we're not a body-mind, because we don't know that either. So the teaching that we're not the body-mind is an antidote to remove the ingrained belief that we are a body-mind. When you drop all the beliefs, you're just left with what's happening. And this is it. We can't say all there is what's happening, because there might be stuff happening outside of what we experience. So we can't say all there is what we experience, because we don't know that. And we can't say there is definitely something outside of our experience, because we don't know that either. But we can say all we experience is what we experience, and that's all we know. And any theories about that, about what that means, that's now venturing into the realm of belief. Now, I did mention that seeking can cause problems as well, because the problem with seeking is that it's the ego that's seeking. It's ignorance that is seeking. It's this there's a belief in doership and belief in separation, belief that you're a separate entity. And because of that belief in separation, because of that root ignorance, seeking occurs, because that separate entity wants to protect itself. But there is no separate entity. You see, there's no separate entity. So the separate entity trying to protect itself and trying to become, which is trying to become enlightened, but they're trying to enlighten the ego. So seeking can perpetuate this process. And the first mistake that's made is this belief in separation. And then the seeking can only occur once that belief in separation has actually occurred. And the seeking is kind of a step above, a step two, or a step below, depending on how you want to put it. So unless you sort of turn back and say, well, actually, I'm looking for this thing called enlightenment. I'm seeking, I'm being earnest. I've got a purity of intent to seek and find out. But actually, who is this entity that's seeking? Is there a seeker here? You see? Unless you kind of turn it around and have a look, you can perpetuate the seeking. But if you turn it around, then there's an openness, or there's an opportunity for the illusory nature of the seeker to be seen. And then you realize, gosh, there's no one here. There's no one here. There's never been anyone here. All this time I thought I was a separate person. I had to do things. Now there's just stuff happening. And I don't know what any of this stuff is. And there's no one doing any of it. And yet it's just happening. And it appears that there's someone here and doing things, but gosh, there's no evidence for that at all. The whole thing kind of, I don't want to make it sound too amazing, because I don't want to sort of build up an image of this in your mind, but the whole thing kind of like poof, kind of like blow open, and I don't know. It's just like there can be a sense of relief and release when this is seen. Of course, there doesn't have to be. And this is not about the experience. The experience is a consequence of a realization. So it's just, I often compare it to Father Christmas and realizing that you've been believing in Father Christmas your entire life. And then suddenly you realize, gosh, Father Christmas doesn't exist. And he never existed. And there can be consequences to that realization. You know, there can be disappointment, or there can be relief, and lots of other consequences. But the experiences are due to the realization. It's the realization that triggers the experience, and the experience varies depending on your conditioning. For this body mind here, there was no awakening experience. I didn't even realize what happened, because the belief in doership just slowly, I think, slowly melted away, dropped away.